Hi, this is Ryan Small Engine 97. Today we're going to be working on a stihl bg56 leaf blower. We're going to be doing a complete service maintenance on it, and we're going to look for a couple common areas to check that have been known to have problems. So a couple basic tools we're going to be using for our service. We're going to want a 15mm deep socket. That's going to be for removing our spark arrestor, to check the spark arrestor screen to see if we got any carbon. And we're going to want a 5/8 spark plug socket with wrench, some form of a tool, a piece of metal bent for a hook for fishing out our fuel line and fuel filter, our spark plug. Different cross-referencing for that is you could do a Bosch USR 7AC or NGK CMR 6H, or you could do a Champion RZ7C. For our fuel filter, you can have a stihl part number 0000 350 3502, or you could do a Sten's equivalent of part number 610-202. And for our air filter, if it needs to be replaced, is going to be stihl part number 4241 120 1800. So this is our basic tool setup along with our service parts for doing a service on our handheld blower. And typically I also like to dump out either the customer's existing fuel in there and put new in after a fuel filter change, just to help eliminate any potential problems, whether it's debris contamination in the fuel. So the first thing we're going to start with is doing the air filter. So if we go to the rear of the handheld blower, we got our cover with our twist lock cap. So basically we can turn left, and that brings that to the upward position. You can wiggle and that cover will come right off. Usually you can get some debris packed in here. Make sure you blow that out. And then for our actual air filter part here, we got this adapter piece here. We'll take that off. Sits in there just like that. And here's our main air filter. It's two-sided. On the outside, it's got this foam. And then on the back side that's facing toward the machine is this more coarser element. So for as decent as this looks, we would probably just lightly blow it out with compressed air, blow out our cover and our other part, and replace this back on the unit. If yours had a lot of contamination, you would probably want to replace it. So we're going to reinstall this right back in here. So our spacer, and then our cover. Push on and turn our lock, and it's locked into place. Next, we are going to replace our fuel filter, and we're going to drain the fuel tank at the same time. So we got our container that we're going to dump our tank of fuel into. Twist our cap off here. Got a retaining ring in there. So we're going to take this, turn it upside down. And you could even push on the purge bulb several times to purge what's in the carburetor out, but for this demonstration I'm not going to do that. So we drained our fuel out. We can check for any contaminations that there might be. See, there's a big blob in there. Set that to the side. And now for a fuel filter, this is where our homemade tool, a piece of metal with a hook shape in there, can help retrieve our fuel filter. So we're going to stick that in there, try to find the back end of the fuel hose. up on there. Okay, there's our fuel filter. And remove this. Grab on the back side of our fuel hose grommet. I'm going to twist and pull at the same time. There's our old fuel filter. Grab our new one, reinstall back on it, kind of twist and push on at the same time. There we go. That's back down into the tank. At that point, I put in new fuel mix. Reinstall our fuel cap. And now we'll move on to our spark plug. Towards the top of the machine, we got our spark plug boot, and underneath it's our spark plug. To remove that, I'm going to grasp on each side. It's got these indentations. My other hand I'm going to place on the handle. And at the same time I'm pulling upward, I'm also twisting it side to side. And that helps loosen it off the boot. So here's our spark plug. We're going to use our 5/8 spark plug socket and ratchet. These can be on kind of tight. There we go. There. Got, for the most part, fairly clean. It's got a little bit of the brownish black coating on top, which is okay. There's not a lot of excessive carbon buildup around the spark plug electrode. So we're going to replace that. And today I happen to have the Champion equivalent, RZ79C. Finger tight. Just so it's nice and snug. We're going to reinsert our boot back on, kind of how we took it off. We're going to push down and kind of wiggle. Give it a good push to make sure it's secure. And now we'll move on to our spark arrestor. Moving on to the front of the leaf blower, we got our muffler. We got our spark arrestor. It's got a 15mm hex nut on it. We're going to use our deep socket and ratchet to remove. Check the spark arrestor screen. There she goes. They can be on pretty tight. So here's our spark arrestor screen. We can see daylight right through it, which is good, which means we don't got any excessive carbon buildup happening. A scenario of if this screen was plugged up would be a very low power, because basically your exhaust gases can't get out your muffler, and it just recirculates it and it acts kind of rich, boggy. A good way you can tell without removing this if you've got a plugged spark arrestor screen is when the unit is running, if you can put your hand in front a few inches away from it, if you don't feel hardly any exhaust pressure coming out, that's a good indication that this screen is probably carboned up. And at which point you can either burn the carbon off with a torch or replace it. So this one looks good, so we are going to reinstall this. So this concludes our hand blower service and maintenance. Another thing I like to check is our purge bulb. Make sure that the rubber purge bulb itself has good flexibility. As you can see, it's fairly clear, so it's about 1 year old. So if that was really stiff or really mushy and had cracks in it, that you could probably replace under the service as well. It's fairly easy to get to, but that's basically all that's involved in for maintenance parts on these blowers.